Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about how to not tear a bicep when doing mixed grip on the deadlift, because obviously straps are not the best idea because we don't train our grip. And if you're not training your grip, you're not really doing a deadlift, right? It's not really what we're shooting for here. Now, a lot of guys will say things like, well, Jason, I'm just doing the deadlift for my back. Well, go do some good mornings. If you don't care about your grip, I don't know why you're deadlifting anyways. There are other hip hinge exercises. Now, people are generally doing the deadlift because we know it brings a lot to the table in terms of strength development, strength testing, all of those things. One of the solutions is the hook grip, and you guys know the hook grip is something I spent a very large amount of time working on the last year, and realized that no matter what I did with it, I could never make it keep up with the mixed grip. So I recently went back to the mixed grip. I'm also someone who has many years ago torn a bicep doing this. So this is something of great interest to me in avoiding. So let's talk about some of the strategies that we can utilize to do this. Now, number one, switching your grip on every single rep. Like, you guys are going to watch me do this very fatiguing set of 10. This is after missing a max. So me doing even 405 was just excruciating. But the thing is, you notice I switch my grip every time. Okay, this is going to do a number of things for us. Number one, obviously we're going to have a lower use of overuse because we're rotating back and forth. Right? Most muscle tears happen largely as a result of overuse. Overuse is what causes things to happen. It's one of the biggest factors. Not the only factor, but it's a massive one. If we're switching it back and forth, each tendon is going to get a different amount of load. And in my case, when I tend to pull maxes, I tend to use my strongest side with it because I know which side is my strongest grip. But in training, we want to alternate. Anything submaximal, alternate it back and forth, possibly favoring your weakest side that you may not use with the maxes. Okay, you could favor it. Now, that's only a small part of the equation. A lot of people would say, well, this also prevents muscle imbalances, and we know that muscle imbalances might contribute to an injury, although they're generally not going to be a bicep tear. So if we're just talking about injury prevention in general, it's a good idea. But what else are we doing here? We're resetting on every rep. We're resetting on every rep. When we're dealing with injuries in general, people very rarely get hurt on a first rep. They very rarely get hurt on a 1-rep max. A lot of people aren't aware of that. They don't know that. But injuries rarely occur on 1-rep maxes. They occur on doubles, triples, fives. That's where people get hurt. Why? Because you're braced, because you're tight, because you're paying attention. Okay, what gets us on a deadlift? What really gets you hurt? That arm bend. Now, arm bend is relative. Some people will be like, Jason, it doesn't always look like you're locking your arms out. That's my full range of motion. So the arm bend is based upon what your joint is physically capable of doing. My elbows don't lock out as much as some people's do. Some people's elbows hyperextend, mine don't. So for me, that is lockout. Okay, that's lockout. So when we reset on every rep because we're switching hands, what do? It gives us a chance to get tight again. Because if you're going to do rep work, any number of reps on a deadlift, anything over 1 rep, reps are insanely fatiguing on the deadlift. We really shouldn't be doing reps as a continual set. We really should be resetting. So if you have to switch hands every single time, what happens? You repractice the setup. You have to repractice the setup. That means you have to get tight. You've got to reach down. You've got to pull the slack out again every single rep. So what does that do? Well, that essentially turns this back into doing singles. Because if we're switching hands every time, which is good for balance development anyways, we're basically doing a single again. Because there's now a couple seconds between each one. You're resetting hips, relocking the elbows out, you're pulling the arm bar out. So as you get more fatigued, you're forced to reconcentrate and refocus again, you are basically turning it back into singles. Turning it back into singles. You're reconcentrating again on each rep because there's now a couple of seconds or more. Start getting fatigued between. We're losing the negatives of doing rep work in the sense of that fatigue causes form to start breaking down. We lose tightness. We start to jerk off the floor with the bent arms. It eliminates that largely. Okay? Because we want to make sure that we reset completely. We want to make sure we reset completely. And by turning loose of the bar to switch your grip every time, you force yourself to do so. Because what can happen if you hold onto the bar, even if you try to reset every rep, do you really, as you start to get fatigued by rep 4, by rep 5, what if it starts really getting fatiguing? You start getting within 1 or 2 reps of failure, what happens? You stop resetting. Even when you think you do if you're holding onto the bar. So if we switch the grip every time, it forces us to do so. We don't have a choice. We dramatically cut down that risk of arm bend. Okay, this is really, really helpful. Really helpful. So this fixes a lot of our technical issues. Right, fixes a lot of our technical issues. Obviously on singles, we want to pull the slack out of the bar. We need to train both grips back and forth. Switching back and forth will ensure that we reset. Let us refocus again on pulling the slack back out, getting tight, because being loose when you're fatigued is what causes most injuries. All of that. Then what else? What about from a muscular perspective? Tons of lat work. Now, you'll see a lot of people out there with more of a bodybuilding background who might say, well, do bicep work. Yeah, I do lots of bicep work. That'll do it. But really, what bicep work truly trains those tendons? Lat work, right? Plenty of lat exercises recruit the biceps just as much as curls do. And I've seen some really amazing strength coaches say this. Some guys I know who are just phenomenal strength coaches. I actually heard some of them say the guys who do enough back work, enough lat work, don't really tear biceps. I've heard that said before. And that makes sense. Chin-ups, there you go. Start doing full range of motion chin-ups to where you go down as far as you can. Well, what does that bring that a curl doesn't? Because curls will help, believe it or not. Curls will actually help reduce that, particularly if you go all the way down. All right, something like an incline curl particularly. But with something like a chin-up, especially if we go all the way down, what are we doing? Really building up those tendons. Because we're subjecting them to a fairly heavy eccentric load. A curl can only put so much weight on that tendon. A chin-up trains you to hypertrophy the bicep in that tendon with a fairly heavy eccentric load. Heavier than you'd get on a curl because you got your whole body weight. If you do very, very large amounts of that, what do we know? It'll tend to build up those tendons. It will really thicken those tendons and strengthen them up. Well, if we have stronger bicep tendons and insertions in general, and we've built those tendons up, they're less likely to tear anyways. It will make us more resilient to it. Now, I would say that if you wanted to do some bicep work for good measure for that, that would be fine too. But I would push you in the direction of bicep work that helps with the tendons. What would that be? Well, maybe things that get you the stretch at the bottom, incline curl with dumbbells. That would be a good one. How about doing band work? Really high rep band work, some people believe, because of the blood flow stimulation, can build up connective tissue. That's pretty easy to recover from. That wouldn't be bad either. If you wanted to just throw in something else just as an extra insurance policy, I would say that would also be a good choice. So what are our take-homes here? Take-homes are, obviously, train both sides, alternate the grip back and forth. Particularly, don't ever do reps where you don't turn loose of the bar on every rep. Completely reset the bar, and if you switch grip every time, that'll help. Combined with plenty of bicep and lat work that puts a nice, strong, eccentric rep on that tendon. So that we train it to handle heavy stretch overload. Thicken it up, hypertrophy it, so that both our technique, our concerns of overuse, and the physical structures of our bicep tendon and insertion are resilient to tearing. That's your winning ticket. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.